on a collision course with the national championship, and the only variable is time.
Because the train is rolling, so anybody out there, I can't tell you what's going to happen right now, but it's coming. Get on forward or get out the way.
Every single play, you're going to find a way to get it done. Play after play after play after play.
You're listening to From the Pink Seats podcast of the State of Louisville Podcast Network. Now, here's your hosts, Jacob Lane, Matt McGavin, and Vince Lococo.
Welcome back. We're in for another episode of From the Pink Seats podcast. Off-season talk tonight, as there is just some good stuff to dive into around the Louisville football program. It's been a very exciting off-season. And while we haven't talked about it a ton, it's because we didn't want the fatigue of doing so very early on, when in reality, now is probably about the time to start talking about some of this stuff. So that's what we're going to do tonight on this episode of From the Pink Seats podcast. You got the full gang here: Jacob, Vince, Matt. Fellas, how are we?
You're pretty good. How about yourself, Jacob? You sound pretty chipper tonight.
Right. You know, I'm rolling solo dolo daddy duty is what I'm on tonight, man. And to be quite honest with you, I'm good at getting them in bed by 8 p.m. when I'm by myself. So got the kids in bed early tonight. Well, Ruby's back there. My daughter is back there coloring. She'll probably make an appearance tonight. I would imagine so.
Ruby.
Yeah, recent preschool graduate, man. Headed out to kindergarten here in a few weeks or in a few months. Yeah, moving on up.
It's a grad party. I will bring a keg.
You know, look, man, I'm at the age where the alcohol being brought to the kids' party, obviously not for the kids, but for the adults, is welcomed. So yeah, that'd be great, man. That's the show.
Exactly. And I can be that, crazy Italian uncle off that just kind of shows up from time to time, gets drunk, cooks good food.
Yeah, that sounds like you. I like it, man.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Matt, how are you? You both talked at the same time, so I have no idea what you said. I just heard what Ben said.
I'd be doing better if the Reds weren't currently just getting shellacked by the Dodgers right now. But, that's baseball talk. So I know people don't hear about that.
It's funny. We're going to talk a little bit about baseball, more about the extracurricular around baseball here shortly. Okay. I've got a question of the night that I want to drop on you. I'll discuss at the beginning. We've got some interesting topics to dive into tonight, and really a busy show. We're not going to be alone for long. Here shortly, Brock Domann, Louisville football quarterback, will join us to talk about his camp coming up here soon. And we're really excited for him to do that. And we're going to talk a lot about the offseason. Of course, we're going to talk about what's been going on around the program and what you need to know. And we're going to talk about Louisville's expectations and really what you can start to expect from the team. Jeff Brom spoke to the media as we record this yesterday. So probably a couple of days removed now as you're listening to this for the first time since after spring football, I'm pretty sure, and gave some updates. And of course, there's been some news around the team with transfers and players departing and things of that nature, and a lot of other things to get into along the way. We got a new segment we're going to introduce tonight that I'm really excited about. And hopefully we'll make this a reoccurring segment throughout the season. But I don't know. Matt's a busy fella, so we'll see. Tonight you get
just lucky to get his time.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Matt's like, I think I can do that.
There's no active games to cover right now. So yeah.
I'm going to be on the radio.
Well, hey, speaking of working hard, man, Matt, this is a great question for you. Okay. Because I think that you can relate a little bit to this. And I think Kara your girlfriend would totally agree that you live under this mentality. I have this proposition or question for you guys. For $93.6 million over 10 years, would you work 44 weeks out of the year, 7 days a week? Would that entice you? So for $93 million over the course of 10 years, whatever the extension is of this coach, which is now, I just said it, Nick Saban, okay, talked about how much they work at the Alabama football program. And he said that for 44 weeks out of the year, they work 7 days a week.
Well, considering I did it,
considering it feels like I work that much right now for considerably less, hell yeah, I would do that. I mean, for 93 million, hell, why not?
I actually had to do that for less money, and had to take out the trash. So
get food,
I mean, I would gladly
and be the food runner,
coach football for 10 years, $93 million.
But can I ask you this for real, though? Okay, so Nick Saban said that that's how his staff operates. And there's probably a lot of college football staffs that are in that same kind of vein. One thing I appreciate about Scott Satterfield, and Vince, I don't know if this holds up or if this was just coach speak, but he talked about how he wanted his staff to be able to be there for their family events, to be able to go and do things, take their kids to school. This is the opposite of that. This is
Nick Saban doesn't give a
hard.
fuck.
Go kids.
Hey, I mean, like, you're also talking to a guy that woke up to like 4 separate Frank Ponce text messages at 6 a.m. to go get Starbucks coffee. So, like,
You've been on the other side of the 7 days a week for $93 million, is what you're saying.
yeah.
Were you in the facility 7 days a week for the 2 years you were there? Like, I mean, obviously, I know, I'm talking about a coach, not as a player, but as a coach.
Yeah, every day. I was in there much more as a coach than I was as a player. And it stupidly, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be playing. I'm going to have more time to do whatever and stuff. No, complete opposite. I had no clue how much those dudes grinded, but it makes sense.
There's studies that show that like happiness and unhappiness can be correlated to the amount that you work and the level of energy that you exert into your job. And I can tell you in my job, and I'm sure both of you feel this way, there's burnout. You feel overwhelmed at times. There's no way that you could do any more work, but also after 5-6 p.m., we'll talk tomorrow. I think that's how I kind of operate. I don't know if you
do not disturb.
Right. Matt, I know for you don't get that fortune of being able to turn off the inbox. If Rocco slides in at 10 p.m., you're writing an article at 10:30. Like, it's that kind of life for you. Do you get burned out working a lot, like on weeks where you're more like 50, 60 hours? Is it hard for you to kind of recover? Is that just the grind?
Because I look at like now working a regular day, getting off at like I don't know, 4:35 as just a normal, like, it's easier. I was working till like 11, 12 at night sometimes, just depending on the day, especially in season. What would kill getting back on that was like the summer, whenever we'd still be there early in the morning, which was cool. You always like getting up early and working out and stuff. But like you say, come 5-6 o'clock when you're ready to go home and you're just seeing who can stay there the latest for whatever reason.
That's not a life I'm built for. I'm
just
that's
a toxic. That's a toxic mindset, right there.
Look, $93 million would cover up a lot of toxicity, but I'm just saying that's not a life that a lot of people are built for, man.
They go play golf at like 3, dude.
Oh well, that's different. Okay,
so that's fine. See, yeah.
Okay, that's good clarity. Yeah, not you.
Not I. I is scouting week 5 for whatever reason.
Vince, we're going to golf. Murray State. We need the scouting report EOB tomorrow.
Grant would be in there hammering out those recruiting reports for Brew, man.
There sounded like there was some frustration in that voice, Vince.
I love it, man. That's great insight. Okay.
They, not I. Oh, tell us how you really feel.
All right. Not to completely switch gears here, but the Twitter question we put out tonight was at Pink Seats Pod. I'm really struggling with that tonight, man. Really having a hard time. And is the Reds hit a home run or get a run or do something? But tonight's Twitter question.
Sorry,
it's okay. Yeah, we don't need to know anymore. You've already bored us enough with the baseball talk. But speaking of baseball,
Ellie just got a triple. I'm sorry. I'm excited.
Question of the night. What is a food you're not ashamed to eat right out of the jar or can? And the reason I asked that is there's this video that went viral on TikTok and on Instagram over the weekend of a fan of the Cleveland Guardians eating a large jar of what appears to be some form of mustard. And I'm not sure if it is spicy brown mustard. I'm not sure if it's yellow mustard. I'm not sure if it's Grey Poupon. Like, I'm not 100% sure what level of mustard we're dealing with here, but it's true sicko behavior, if you're asking me, at a baseball game where you're completely open. Like, your life, fellas, I don't think you all realize this. You're always this close to going viral for the wrong reason. Something you do that somebody else is like, that's weird, I'm going to tweet that. And then here you are, you're this guy, right? So here's my question. I want an honest answer. Okay. This is a safe space. What is something that you're not ashamed? You are ashamed of, to talk about it, but what is something that you eat out of the container, the jar, the can, whatever it is? I can go first if that helps. I am a sucker for applesauce out of the container. And I think it's the thing my wife hates about me the most. Not the big jars that you buy, the individual packs. Okay. So the little cups, I slurp them out like they're a drink. And it's
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's disgusting. Yeah. No, it's disgusting. And my wife absolutely hates the noise that it makes when you're trying, because the applesauce container, you can only tip it back so far. You eventually got to get in there and get the remnants like a dog lapping water. Like you have to, right? And that's disgusting. But I do it every time, and I'm never going to change at this point. So what do you fellas enjoy straight out of the can?
Matt, go ahead.
So this might stem from a place of like I did take a fair amount of Jell-O shots in college. So, like those big old packets of Jell-O. Oh,
like the little containers. So you'll just like a wing. You know how Madden and Luke will just clear the bone?
A wing.
You know how they'll clear the bone? You just clear the little cup with just like one squeeze and it's gone.
Oh hell yeah! Or either that or pudding. I love pudding. That might explain why I'm 270. But
all right, what do you
applesauce and pudding and Jacob? I have zero shame in anything. You know me.
I do know you. Yeah,
like I eat gas station food. Like I am not ashamed to eat anything out of a can. Like I will eat sardines all day for sure. Like those are fire. Obviously, a good pickle out of the jar.
Pickle's a good one. Yeah, of course.
Can't go wrong with sipping the pickle juice either.
Pickles are disgusting, and I will stand by that.
You've never been drunk in college and ate a can of Chef Boyardee right out of the can.
No, that's gross. Somebody tweeted that at us. That's disgusting.
Yeah,
I can never eat cold pasta out of a can. That is horrifying.
Cold pasta is gas, dude. Especially a meatball. Throw that thing on just some white bread.
Different though. That's different. The pasta itself, cold. That's disgusting.
Have you ever had like pickled onions or pickled garlic?
I have not. Neither one. I've had pickled onions on like a sandwich. I feel like,
yeah, but like those like homemade, like country stuff, like like somebody's mom or somebody made it. Like eat those straight out of a mason jar.
Just a couple of responses we got on Twitter because I think this is interesting. Everybody is so different, and this is it's a safe space, so I don't judge you. I'm sorry for saying that's disgusting. Sardines, another answer that we got on Twitter. Hot sauce.
Yeah,
that seems.
There have been some hot sauces I've had that are that good. There we go. Home run.
About the Reds. God,
this is great. This is a great additional content for us only. Matt, mid-sentence celebration. Just to continue on, peanut butter. That's a really good one, especially when you're making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The knife is a little dangerous. You got to be careful, but you get the peanut butter and then you just help yourself. You guys?
I go with the goop. What is it? Gobber, the peanut butter and jelly one.
Oh, so you go jar? With them.
Oh,
yeah. So I get the same jar. And then, like, I'm kind of having like a little mini uncrustable.
So, do you refrigerate that, or do you put that in the pantry? Okay, all right. I was gonna say, like, I gotta have the jelly's got to be ice cold.
Yeah, jelly's got to be cold,
or else we're talking about a nasty sandwich. But yeah, interesting enough. Sardines. Let's see what else we got on here. Salsa, fruit. That one doesn't count. I feel like I guess fruit out of the can, like back in the day when we were kids. You get the little pineapple rounds,
fruit medley,
or like the fruit medley, where you ignore all
those things were so bad.
Who was I just talking to about that? Presley. I was like, man, the cantaloupe and that stuff sucks.
Ravioli, so that goes along with what Vince said of the Chef Boyardee out of the can. And then this is interesting, maybe the most interesting one: maple syrup.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know about that one, man. I can't do the texture thing.
Okay, so that reminds me of. So I know I'm going to get judgment for this one, and I know I'm speaking this out over the airwaves. So I know someone's going to probably at me for it. But like when you go to a place like IHOP or Waffle House or Cracker Barrel, and you'll have those little mini containers of jelly. I'll eat those sometimes.
Hey, I will throw down Cracker Barrel gravy. I can eat that straight out of the just hand me the bowl and I'll get a spoon and I can easily just harm that whole thing gravy. No biscuits, nothing.
When I was in college, we would frequent Dairy Queen quite a bit, and the gravy in the chicken tender baskets would often get eaten outside of the chicken tenders as their own side. So yeah, I can totally relate to that. All right, final comment here on Twitter. Maybe my favorite, actually. Y'all are serial killers. So that's great ending to that. But that's just some everybody's got a little disgusting food habit in them, and it's every once in a while we got to bring it to the light and talk about it and just have some group therapy. So there you go. That's what we got. Let's move into talking football now. What you need to know, as we said, new segment. Simple name. We spent no time on it. Let's dive right into it. And this is great news for Louisville because in the basketball side of things, we're not getting this. And that's coach media availability, talking about the offseason, talking about the new additions, talking about what's going on and all of that. And so Jeff Brom yesterday had an event at the Fraser Museum. Afterwards, he spoke with the media here locally, including one Matt McGavick, who, of course, always poking and prodding. He knows the answers, baby. You got to do that big J on a Tuesday night at the Fraser Museum.
Tuesday at the
Life takes
Fraser.
you anywhere in this world for some sports. I mean, you never know where you might end up, Matt.
I can't tell you how much I didn't want to go because LA De La Cruz is making his debut at the same time. I know this is the most baseball I've ever talked on this podcast.
And it's enough.
But...
I mean, you're close to Presley Myers status of getting muted here mid-show. Jeff Brom says the team may not be done adding. They have a couple of scholarships remaining even after the addition of Joey Gatewood from Central Florida, Jeffrey Clark from Georgia State, and Harrison Bailey not on scholarship, but joins the team as a walk-on. Former 5-star, played at Tennessee at UNLV last year. But the team not done. And specifically, he says, as we evaluate our team, talking about one position, says the experience factor isn't there at tight end, and that's a concern. Obviously, there's been some roster movement for Louisville football. They've lost Francis Sherman and Des Melton to the transfer portal, and now they're left trying to figure out what they're going to do at tight end. There is a name that we can talk about here in a second, but that's not the only position at tight end. They're also at linebacker. They lost KJ Cloyd, played a lot of snaps last season as a backup behind Monty Montgomery and Momo Sonogo, and played fairly well when he was on the field, was expected to be a starter this year. Portaled once, came back, portaled again. Louisville has a couple of spots to fill. A name to watch. This is a name that surfaced on Twitter today. Sean Bowman, tight end out of Maine. And boy, is he a big fella. 6'5", 255, and was a guy who produced, even though at the FCS level, was an all-conference player, and is now being courted by several Power 5 programs as one of the most attractive tight ends in the portal. So, fellas, real quick, needs. What do you think? Where do they got to go? There's 3 or 4 scholarships left, something like that. Where do they go?
Tight end, linebacker, end of list. I mean, if you look at any other spot on Louisville's roster, you can either say, okay, yeah, this position is done, we don't need to worry about it, or you can say, yeah, you might be able to add someone here if they were a luxury, but you're fine here. But you look at tight end and linebacker, specifically middle linebacker. Those are the 2 positions on this roster where you're like, okay, this could be a weakness on either side of the ball. Because, I mean, at the tight end spot, your starter is probably, as of right now, is probably going to be walk-on Josh Lifson, because it's day one starter is probably not going to be Jamari Johnson. I know I've said on this podcast before that I think Jamari Johnson could be the starter by the end of the season.
Still
but
possible.
Right out of the gates, he's not going to start. I mean, he's only a true freshman. Not only is there issues with depth at tight end, the people that are there just don't have the reps that are necessary to perform in the offense. And then, excuse me, you look over at linebacker, it's a little bit of the same, but that's because so many contributors left. I mean, Momo ran out of eligibility. Monty transferred to Ole Miss. Dorian transferred to Cincinnati. KJ, I mean, he played a fair amount as a backup, but I mean, even if he was returning, linebacker would still be a slight question mark because
I mean, he's just sliding in, like in terms of you're the next guy up, man. You got to go out there and start. I've been there. I'm not the start.
And he looked good in spring. TJ Quinn looked good in spring.
That's my guy.
But
Jack
I mean,
Reiger, put some respect on Mr. Reiger's name.
I know, but hey, a lot of people look good in spring, and then they wind up not doing a whole lot during the regular season. But
that's right. And don't discount a guy like Reiger getting put on scholarship before the season starts. Also, we've seen that before with walk-ons, and I don't know much about how the walk-ons were utilized at Purdue, but we've seen that recent memory here with a guy like Marshawn Ford.
It's
Didn't their quarterback start out as a walk-on, or like the running back or something like that they just had?
Purdue's running back last season was a walk-on. He's now Ryan Walters put him on scholarship now once he got there, but during
like 900 something rushing yards.
Oh right? Yeah, he was
that's
good.
a pretty good utilization of a walk-on.
Walk-ons are valuable, man. They're real people out
They're
there
the glue.
doing real big things. That's right. The glue. Walk-ons are the glue. No doubt about that. All right, let's move on to the big dudes doing big things department, and that is Brian Hudson, Louisville's presumed starting center. He is set to compete not in a football event. No, not the combine, not the supplemental draft. No, this is the national championships of track and field in college. And that is impressive for a guy who played the most snaps for Louisville football last season, 852 snaps. That's pretty impressive. So he qualified last month throwing 19.4 meters in the shot discus is what he called it, which I thought was I thought it was called shot put.
Yeah, I thought it was shot
discus
put.
is what he called it. So I'm going to go with what he says.
The shot puts with the ball, shot discus is with the disc, right?
I don't know. That's new to me. I always thought it was just shot. I'm not well versed in track and field. We need to get our good friend DJ Bienemy to come on and explain the difference between shot put and shot.
He's too busy being a real capital J journalist. He would never entertain us.
That's right, man. Mr. ESPN appearing on TV with his big Dwight Schrute glasses, man. Shout out to him though. But it is really cool. We talked about Brian Hudson being like the kind of steady, not to steal what Vince just said, but the glue of this team and this offensive line. He was coming back and, could potentially be an all-conference player. I found what he said to the media really, really interesting. He said it's been a really tough spring with changes at football and then being extremely busy with a schedule of both. It sounds like, you kind of hear in those comments, if you're reading between the lines, like, I know that I have to make sure my spot for the football team is, solidified, that I am good there. There's no doubts, new coaching staff. They didn't recruit me. There's always the chance that I could be upended by one of these 14 offensive linemen coming in. And he was very, honest about that, but also very committed to his other sport. And he encouraged other athletes who have interest in being a two-sport athlete to do so. And he said that each year he feels like at the end of the year, he wants to stop doing it, but it's, he continues to push himself to do so. Vince, what do you think about that, man? Did you play with any two-sport athletes when you were at Louisville?
Oh, two-sport athletes. I don't think we did, actually. We had some guys that probably could have played basketball and would have helped the basketball team out a lot. I'm always a big component of that. Basketball players can't come play football, but football players can most definitely go play basketball.
Some of the greatest two-way sport players, and I'm going to sound like an idiot in terms of history. I'm going to go to back to
Bo Jackson. If he's not number one, it doesn't matter.
Well, I was going to talk about Louisville, right? You're talking about the great Josh Chichester, you talk about where are they now, man? That's what a great story that would be. We could get him on. Josh, if you're listening, buddy, let us slide in those DMs, man. Let's talk. Josh Chichester. I'm trying to think of who else. Was there ever a point where Louisville had a football player? I know they recruited obviously Chubba Purdy, and they recruited some other players that have played.
Yeah, I probably could have did that.
I think Robbie Ashford was a guy that was going to play baseball and football at the next level. Maybe am I tripping, or was Deion Sanders' son a baseball player in high school and he was also going to play? I feel like I remember that.
I don't know, but I know for a fact, 100% fact, that we would not have any people on the college golf team.
Mason King could have played college.
Oh, they're good, but I guarantee you they go out there and get smoked by one of them college golfers. And on top of it, the other dudes, if y'all would have seen them at Top Golf in Jacksonville, Florida, man, it would have looked
a lot like me playing Top Golf, man.
And Vince, I would have liked you to see you step in a batting cage and try to hit a baseball.
Oh, that's cake. Easy.
I would love to see that as well.
I played AU baseball up until I was 14 years old. I would rather
walking
see
in
there and
hitting
hitting if you just throw me, if I know a fastball is coming, I could probably hit it.
Oh, if I know a fastball, here it is.
You just said I got a nasty curveball. If I hop in a cage, I ain't going in there against a freaking 12-6 curveball or anything.
Matt's throwing you a fucking Tim Wakefield knuckleball.
Yeah,
that's what he's gonna do. That's what he's gonna do.
We used to have a coach that did throw knuckleballs to us growing up, and it was a fucking pain, man. That would suck, dude.
That's incredible.
Throwing you an eephus pitch.
Right. For the sake of time, last one here on our What You Need to Know. Jumping back to a previous topic that we discussed last episode, NCAA college football 2024. The video game, maybe the most anticipated video game from the sports perspective in the last 10 to 15 years. I think the only thing that would outdo this is if 2K came back and got into the football game. I'm telling you, that would be incredible. And that is now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there is a loud voice telling players to boycott appearing in this game. because Matt, I'm telling you, man, this game is in jeopardy because you now have a players union of sorts. And I would need to get some more information on how legitimate this players union is. I say that, but EA Sports is partnering with a organization from an NIL perspective to pay out athletes. And the players who appear in this game, it's optional, by the way, will be paid out $500. That's it. There are no royalties based off of sales. There are no future deals. There are no other brand deals, nothing. $500. Now, that may sound like, okay, whether they want to be in the game. And a lot of them probably will still say, I want to do it. Like, I wasn't going to be in the game before. $500 in my pocket, I wasn't going to get anyways. But at the same time, though, guys around the country like the Caleb Williams, the Drake Mays, the big name players in college football, why would you do this, right? You could demand more money and maybe you'll get it. But why would you allow this to happen knowing that they need you, right? This is leverage. This is what we've seen in all the professional sports leagues, this absolute switch in power, and that's the athletes having the power.
I don't really think it's that personally. Like, I don't think it's that deep really with a lot of those guys. I mean, it's a former Clemson football player.
It is. And I want to make sure I know, but I'm going to tell the story of that. Justin Falcinelli. I'm going to hope that I'm pronouncing that right. Former starting center, national champion for Clemson. He now works in the NIL industry. He is working and representing the College Football Players Association. They have a union of sorts to protect the athletes, just like you see in the NBA and the NFL and NHL. Really this next step in professional college sports, essentially, right? Justin has been claiming that there is no reason for these players to participate because it's not something that they are getting value out of. He said they should not opt into it. It is just a ridiculously low amount of money. Would love to see the new NCAA football game get made, but would love to see players get more than half of 1%, 0.05%. Essentially is what they are getting of revenue based off of what this game did back in 2014. A group licensing deal with a lower fee than the previous settlement and without royalties is a garbage deal. What did we just hear Trent Guy say? How much money did Trent Guy make from the lawsuit against college football or EA Sports? Matt, I know you don't know because you don't listen to the show. Vince, how much money did he make?
It was like I thought
$10,000.
Yeah.
10 grand is how much Trent Guy got paid from that settlement. And now, somebody like Caleb Williams gets paid $500.
The National Labor Relations Board is actually suing the NCAA and the Pac-12 and USC to try and, recognize student athletes as official employees. So I don't think we're that far off from an actual union forming, but until then, I don't think that this is going to threaten the game coming out. If anything, I agree that these players, some of them probably should be getting more than $500. Now, maybe not the third string long snapper for Akron, but if you're like a Caleb Williams or a Marvin Harrison Jr. or a Drake May or a Joe Alt, make all the money you can. You're going to be one of the best players in the game. Get your market value.
You already got enough money, Caleb Williams.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Don't
Stop
ruin
being
this
petty.
game for
We
me.
all just want the freaking game, man.
Game,
Take one for the
just don't.
team. That's going to wrap it up. What you need to know, a longer edition of that, but a lot of great conversation around some very interesting topics. So let's transition here and talk about some actual Louisville football stuff. A lot of chatter, obviously, with the season getting closer now, officially under 100 days. And we know that thanks to Cardinal Strong, our good friend of the show here with the 100-day countdown, which is one of the best parts of the offseason of Louisville every single season. But Jeff Brom, as I mentioned earlier at the top of the show when we did the segment there of what you need to know, we talked about his media availability and just some of the comments and takeaways. So, Matt, I want to kind of go back to that now and just start at the top of what did you take away? What was the big thing in his media availability that stood out to you?
Well, to be honest, so it was a fair amount of coach speak. I mean, that's one thing that I've picked up about Jeff Brom is that, it's coach speak, but it's interesting coach speak. But I think the big message is that he's pretty satisfied with his quarterback room and the depth that's in there. Because he was pretty intentional after spring ball about building out the depth in that room by bringing in Brady Allen from over at Purdue, where he was from, obviously, and then bringing in a former 5-star to walk on when at a point where, and this is after Brady Allen comes in, so it's not like they really need another body in that room. So, but like Brom said, I believe it was in his introductory press conference that he's a Howard Schnellenberger understudy from his days as a player. So he's going to subscribe to the notion of have as many quarterbacks on the roster as he needs and as he wants. So yeah, he seemed to really like the depth there. Obviously, not all of them are going to have playing time, but we saw what happened to the running back room last year.
Yeah.
And you don't want to happen to any position, especially not quarterback. So that's the big thing that I took away from that availability yesterday.
That's going to be the cool thing to watch, Matt, is like the depth at that quarterback position. But say we do get in that situation, like, for a fact those guys behind him are going to be incredibly prepared for that situation to be put into that game. And I'm not going to say we won't skip a beat, because obviously there's a reason there's 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so on and so on. But I'd feel good about our situation. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, end of the world type deal.
Yeah.
Right.
And that room, it's really impressive. Presley Meyer from State of Louisville wrote a great article, stateoflouisville.com, about the quarterback room, and just how all of a sudden you go from having, just a couple of guys to having, a full starting 5 on the basketball court of capable quarterbacks, including, a former 4-star leader of the freshman class in 2023 in Pierce Clarkson, as well as guys who have played meaningful football, including one that's going to appear on the show here shortly in Brock Domann, as well as Evan Conley, who might as well at this point be a de facto second quarterback coach /GA/QC. Like, he's bringing leadership and coaching to that room more so than he's bringing, something out on the field. Although I'm sure, if he's healthy and he steps out there, that he's a guy that could play well in this offense. But I'm just really curious to see how it's going to go, right? So we know from the quarterback perspective, Jack Plummer is going to be the guy and is going to receive the lion's share of snaps. And outside of if an injury happens, we likely won't see a ton of 2 quarterbacks at all. It would just be him, right? Because Louisville's in a position, as Jeff said, quote, "It's simple. The goal is to win now." That is how they have operated this offseason, and that is what they are here to do. Because if not, Pierce Clarkson would have been the starter, or they would have gone into a season kind of like with Teddy and Will Stein, where Brock and Evan are competing with Pierce rather than a guy who has, really been a starter before. So you have Jack, right? And then you have Brock. I personally think it's going to be Brock Domann as the backup this season. I think for a guy who played last year and his experience showed that he could win a football game and compete at the highest level as a backup, which that's all you can ask for. But you do have, Brady Allen, who is a Jeff Brom protege of sorts. And then you have Pierce Clarkson, who I think you need to play at least 3 or 4 games, or when there's blowouts, give him snaps and opportunities to see the field. He is not a guy, I think, that you can afford to go 12 games with no snaps, considering what the portal has become. So other than that, Vince, I don't know if you got a chance to listen to any of the press conference, but is there anything this offseason or anything in this conversation from a Jeff Brom perspective that kind of sticks out?
No, but whenever I heard Miss Brom talking,
it was the sweetest thing,
emotional.
Man.
I know that, man. That hit my heart. I was like, oh, I'm so happy they're back. And hearing all the stories of like how Coach Brom Oscar was talking about how, if I ever need anything, I'll just go to Brady. I won't go to you all.
That was hysterical.
Man, that is sick. That is just such a cool grandpa. Like, can you imagine sitting at their Thanksgiving table and just like the football you hear?
Matt would have his laptop out. What'd you say? Can you say that again? What'd you say? Oh, you said there's gonna be 2 quarterbacks? Oh, you're recruiting somebody else? We've heard this now throughout not only like the off season and listening to fans talk or listening to local radio, or like Louisville football from an excitement standpoint is at a peak right now of a place that it's not been in years. And a part of that is because how connected this coaching staff is to the city. And it's an event like this where you got mom, dad, brothers, sons, grandsons sitting in the audience, family, extended family. Like is what they've been waiting for.
When Jeff can sit there and point out Dr. Mullen, who's the president at Trinity, be like, oh, Dr. Mullen, remember Greg could have been on the debate team at Trinity. Ha ha ha. I'm like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it is so deep how connected everything is now.
I love that, man. But it really is. And that's why you asked a great question and a couple of times throughout the offseason of what can expect from Jeff Brom as a coach, and what kind of excitement level does he bring? And everyone has really shared, like, that has been around him. Like, he brings a new level of just kind of juice to the program, and we're seeing that in real time. But speaking of Jack Plummer, I wanted to kind of talk about this real quick before we transition into bringing Brock on and then getting into the new segment, Matt's 5. We'll get into that for the first time this episode, and hopefully, as I mentioned, we'll bring that back throughout the year. But Jack Plummer is what is really interesting about Louisville, because if you look around the ACC at the quarterback position, there's a lot of guys that are kind of fitting in 3 buckets. There's those studs, All-Americans, first rounders. There's that next wave of guys who have played well. They've been either highly ranked or they have, outperformed expectations. You have those like proven veterans like the Brennan Armstrongs and Garrett Schraders and Phil Jerkoviches that have played in the ACC for 17 years. And then you have these kind of like unproven guys at Emmett Moorhead at BC, who's going to fill in for Jerkovich, Mitch Griffiths, who will take over for Sam Hartman. And then there's obviously competitive battles at schools like Virginia and Georgia Tech, where you really don't know who the starter is. But when you look at Jack Plummer, it's a hard place to kind of fit him into any of those buckets. Yes, he's a proven veteran, but I feel like we don't know who he is. Like, we know he's talented. We know that he has potential, but he's never had this, right? And help me, if you guys feel differently, please speak up. But like, I feel like this season is all about how far he can take them. Like, that is going to be the difference this season, is how good Jack Plummer is with a surrounding stud filled lineup, right? The Kevin Colemans, Jamari Thrash, the Amari Huggins Bruce, the Jawar Jordans, an offensive line that's got veterans galore. I just feel like this team is really going to be predicated on how far he can take them.
It's right now during the preseason, it's a little bit of an odd dynamic, because it's gotten to the point where Louisville is not only generating local buzz, like, hey, this team can be really good. It's been generating national buzz for the past month plus or so, about like, oh, hey, this team could be like a dark horse to make it to the ACC championship game, or things of that nature. But then when you kind of get into the weeds and start breaking down, like, okay, like, who's going to be the best players on this team, or like, who are the best quarterbacks in the ACC, Jack Plummer's name is almost never brought up. I mean, when fans are asked like to name like who you think is going to be the best player on Louisville's team, or who is the best player on Louisville's team, you think of an Ashton Gelati, a Jamari Thrash, or guys like that, and almost no one ever says Jack Plummer. But I mean, if Louisville is going to have the level of success that many people think they can, you almost need Jack Plummer to kind of elevate his play into the upper echelon of AC quarterbacks. I'm not saying be number one, because it's hard to beat a guy like Drake May and Jordan Travis, both of which are Heisman contenders right now.
Right.
But I mean, you want to be like just right on the outside, like around the cusp of those two right there, if Louisville's going to have potentially a 10-win season.
I mean, he could. I mean, Jacob, you've said it a couple times on the show, I think, like a Joe Burrow-esque type of a season for him, where, I mean, he has the most talent he's ever had around him now. He obviously was just waiting on his opportunity to just kind of go out there and sling it to a bunch of guys, and he's going to get this opportunity come in the fall. So I'm anxious to see what it looks like for sure. I don't want it to be who was that quarterback that split time with Reggie Bonifant? White guy.
Gardner?
Yeah. Couldn't stand watching him play football.
Interesting. Yeah.
Could not stand watching. Like, he's just a statue and stuff. And Jack doesn't seem like a statue by any means. Jack seems like he can move around a little bit more in the pocket, get 5 if we need it. Slide like Brock likes, we'll get to allude to later in the podcast. But I just don't want him to be a statue and just be a bridge quarterback. Like, you can be so much more than a bridge quarterback this year.
Watching Jack, I mean, he's not a scrambler, but he's definitely not like a statue. If you've watched like any of the open practices, or if you watch the spring game, it's clear that he has like some semblance of mobility when it comes to feeling pressure around the pocket and kind of navigating it to like give him some time to extend the play. It's not like he's a Tom Brady statue for sure. Like that era of quarterback is pretty much dead at this point. If you are that kind of quarterback, it's almost the point where you're going to get looked over, because like you almost need, in this era of football, you almost need to have some aspect of mobility.
Rodgers is like the only thing you could slightly compare to that. And even now,
and even he has his moments.
Yeah, how he's evolved his game. He's moving around in the pocket and stuff. I don't know. I'm anxious. Jeff has the most talent he's ever had. You know, quarterback has the most talent he's had around him. I mean, this is just a talented football team with guys that are kind of waiting to pop off. So we're sitting right here in limbo, just like anxious almost. Like I'm just anxious to get to week 1 and just hit the field. Like, let's just go.
But hey, it's a good problem to have, having all this talent. It's like the Reds and all their middle infielders.
Yeah, shut up. Shut up, man. Stop talking about baseball.
I'm sorry.
We have hard enough time keeping an
zero
audience,
World
man.
Series.
Lord have mercy, dude. Like, geez. But no, so I bring up that conversation for a reason.
Jacob.
Here's the reason I bring this up, and this is going to become much more of a conversation in a few months, and then I'm going to text you guys their tweet that somebody says, and I'm going to be like, I said that 2 months ago, and you're going to be like, shut up, nobody cares. But Louisville is not going to be picked where they should be this year in the ACC. No chance. Louisville is going to find themselves somewhere between about 6 to 10, just simply because there are teams with more. I mean, okay, I'm just looking at a very early preseason prediction, and there are 6 teams ahead of Louisville in this one. Now, this is pretty all.
Is UNC one?
No, Florida State, because Florida State
is like a top 5
Florida
team
State might
now.
be a national in the college football playoff next year. They are legit, and I'm
They're
so
good.
but we don't have to play with them.
Yeah,
Say something.
That's
else
what I
against
said
Florida
before
State.
last
I believe
season,
it when
and
I
they-
see it, Florida
And
State.
they,
You heard
they
me.
looked damn good last season, Vince. Like
That's last season. I don't care. Nobody cares.
They're still
about
that same old undisciplined team. They're
Yeah.
a bunch of
I don't give a
bunch
damn.
of losers. They suck. Fans from Florida State never listen to this podcast.
shout out to the Florida State fans.
But then you have Clemson, North Carolina. This
Okay.
one doesn't make sense to me, but this is the ACC. Miami,
Frauds.
Duke.
Fraud.
So Pitt. I mean,
Fraud.
then Louisville.
I mean, Duke's going to be good, but I wouldn't put them in
NC
top.
State.
God,
Yeah,
Duke
I
is
know.
not going to be good at football.
but they've got a good coach and they have a good quarterback. So
I'm
they-
not saying
down
Duke is
there.
going to win the ACC. Duke is going to have a good team.
Matt, do you think they'll win 7 or more?
Probably.
I'd have to look at their
I
schedule.
bet
but
you $20 right now they do not.
Let me
win
look at their schedule right now. We're going to make this.
No, don't look at the schedule. Don't look at the
just make the
schedule,
bet,
Matt.
Matt.
Don't look at the schedule. Just
No,
make
I'm
the
look.
bet.
Well, what was the win total?
Duke is
Six.
not good at football. They
He said
never
7.
will.
What was the
be.
win total, Vince?
7.
7?
7.
Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3.
You get 7 or more. 7 or more. You're so
Bet.
weak.
Bet.
All right,
Bet.
$20 bet right
Bet.
here. You
$20 right here on-
Let me look at PFF and see what PFF says about freaking Florida State running 3 slants.
Bet. Louisville's not going to be where they should be, and it's going to be because they lost a lot of talent, specifically on the defensive side. You don't just replace Yaya Diaby's and Yasir Abdullah's. Like that's tough, right? Like it's going to be a tall task for Louisville, but I don't think people understand the capability and dynamic ceiling of this team. Like this team could be now this is far, like very far, like very like non-conservative approach here, but they could be a 10-win team in the regular season. But they could also be a team that the quarterback struggles, the defense has a hard time finding itself. You know, the linebacker depth situation hurts them, the tight end depth, the kicking game and special teams game hurts them. And so it is kind of hard to peg where Louisville belongs. And unfortunately, Jeff Brom is going to probably catch a little bit of stray from Scott Satterfield and the fact that media writers are going to look at Louisville. They'll look at them as being like on the way up, but still this year, it's too many of Satterfield's players. There's too many, bridge players. It's whatever. When in reality, all right, bet. Because I think they can win 10 games.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it when it comes to like national perception, like a lot of people are going to see the fact that it is Jeff Brom, but I mean it's a
what
new
have you done
coach
for
in first year.
What have you done for me lately? Kind of.
Well,
world,
that
you know
and
what I mean?
it's the first year of a transition, so a lot of people are going to have that predisposition of thinking, oh, there might be a little bit of a struggle at time, and plus. And I know I haven't really mentioned this since he first got hired because like there's been a lot of like good momentum around here. But it bears repeating that Jeff Brom, while was really good against the upper echelon teams that he faced, he was prone to some inexplicable stinkers from time to time.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like, if I could just have a matter of fact conversation of like, what did you learn from those games, right? Because they had a lot of highs at Purdue, right? They beat Ohio State, they beat Iowa. They went to the Big Ten championship. They've done a lot of like groundbreaking things at Purdue, but they also lost to Rutgers, and they also lost, to
Iowa ran the ball all over them last season. Iowa, they had the worst offense I've ever seen, and they ran the ball all over them.
That's one of the kind of like things I'm interested to see if that happens. Like, what happens like to the honeymoon stage if Jeff Brom loses to Duke, or if Jeff Brom loses to IU in week 3, like that type of like, because if you think about all the
if
games,
they lose to Indiana,
I know, but
I will let you shake my head.
Okay, that's a fun bet too. I don't really want them to lose, so I'm not making that bet. But I'm just saying, like, we saw Louisville lose a lot of games in the Satterfield era that they shouldn't have lost, i.e. Georgia Tech in 2020, where you're up by 14 points in the third quarter and you somehow lose by 17 points or 21 points. You get on me about excuses, okay?
That was some bull, man. I couldn't even signal to Malik. Me and Malik are sitting over here bitching to the ref because we're like, this is not legal. In between plays, they were doing the strobe light stadium flicker, and we're like, this is not legal.
That's some Clemson play right out of Clemson's playbook,
bullshit,
man. Yeah, right. But my point being is just that it's going to be an interesting type of placement for Louisville this preseason. But when you look at talent, and we're going to get into this with Matt's 5, not only is there a lot of talent that stands out, but there is a lot of guys who have been underutilized, who with the right coaching, with the right tutelage, with the right tools are going to come alive offensively and defensively. This is going to be a different team that you're going to see. I think when we go out there to Atlanta in week 1, we're going to look at this team and we're going to be like, these dudes played here last year. You're telling me this is the same team that played here last year? And not is it there. I mean, they won 8 games, went to a bowl game. Like, I mean, it's not the year they expected, but still, I think we're going to have those kind of moments where it's like, damn, this team is like, they're fast, they're talented. They look like an NFL team. Like when they're on the sidelines, there's no more small 260-pound offensive linemen and defensive linemen. This is a legitimate team that's going to be ready to play big boy football. And Jeff Brom, if there's anything I know about him, he's not coming here to lose. Like, you don't come home and then just start getting your ass kicked. Like, that's how you end up.
Kenny?
That's
you say?
Oh, wait, that's good. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back on the other side. Brock Domann's going to join us, and we're going to talk about the Cards Youth Football Camp that Brock Domann is hosting here, the second year of the camp out there at the King Louis Sports Complex in Middletown, behind the Blind Squirrel, which Vince and Matt, we got to hang out recently for my 30th birthday. You guys got to see me on a night where I'm flowing, I'm bopping. The Blind Squirrel was a great place to be that night.
Yeah, beer's expensive there.
It is expensive there, but
it is expensive.
Mine. I didn't have to buy
where
one.
beer's
so
not
I
that expensive. Karam's bait and tackle, J-Town.
Speaking of J-Town, I want to remind you, L&M Eats, episode number 3 coming soon. Just wrapped up filming at Parlor out in J-Town, the new location, with some very special guests and John and Aaron Yarmouth. An incredible episode, a lot of fun. And there is some really cool energy between Madden and John and Luke and Aaron. A lot of fun. The episode I can't wait for you all to see. But make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel at the State of Louisville and follow those guys on Twitter, Madden Sanker, Luke Burgess, and the L&M Eats accounts. Continue to support them. Their merch, you can buy that at T-Shirt Hooligan. And we will be right back on the other side. Speaking of NIL, Brock Domann will join us and we'll talk about his camp. We're excited to welcome in Louisville football quarterback Brock Domann. Brock has got a football camp coming up here in Louisville in just a few weeks. Actually, just 10 days from today. And so we're going to talk with Brock about the camp, but also, of course, we got to talk to Brock about Brockisms. I don't know, Brock, if you remember seeing the picture last year from our account of your face photoshopped onto a Brockhampton album after the Virginia game, but we went a little in on the Brockisms last year, so we'll talk about all of that. But first of all, man, welcome into the show. How are you? How excited are you that football is less than 100 days away?
Very excited. Stupid excited, man. Just got a new field. There's obviously a lot of new energy with this team. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see us come together and put on a show this fall.
A lot of weapons added this offseason, a lot of things offensively to be excited about. And of course, with the coaching change, a new scheme and everything for you. But let me start by asking you this. Okay. This is one of the questions that I think if I could have asked you last year, I would have asked you first, outside of how awesome was that moment against Virginia? But tell me, after the game, you get texts, and how many of them were about how bad the announcers butchered your last name for a full game?
I definitely got over 10 texts about that. No, it's Domann. I don't know. I feel like announcers, man, they got a lot going on. So pronunciation's probably not the biggest priority for them. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that big of that hard of a last name to pronounce, to be honest. So it's just it's a little confusing. It's not some long Giannis Antetokounmpo,
Yeah, exactly.
And
so I don't know, man.
I could see Domann if somebody was Domann, but Domann felt so intentional. Next question. Did you hear any good, what we would call Brockisms last year? Brocktober, because obviously the Virginia game was in October. Did you hear any good jokes or any good puns using your name on campus after that moment?
There was a lot, I don't know what happened, but it just took fire for, a good 2-3 weeks.
You don't know what happened. You blew up in the Virginia game, Brock. That's what happened, man. You had a phenomenal game.
Yeah, appreciate that. Honestly, my favorite is definitely Brocktober. That's still talked about sometimes.
Man, it's a classic.
With this new staff, there's some guys. One of them being Raheem Craig. He's a D lineman. He'll be randomly sometimes you're man, these guys don't know about Brocktober. Let them know.
That is gold. That is gold.
It's awesome, but I mean, shoot, there are some other ones I don't really remember specifically.
Brock your socks off, Brock and roll.
Keep on going. I know there's one that I'll remember.
You're going to make me go back to the episode show notes after Virginia, because I legit had a list of about 50 of them that I used throughout the show. It's a big moment. I
heard rock out with your Brock out, and I'm like, okay, that's enough, guys.
That one hit. That's the one I wanted to remember. Rock out with your Brock out.
All right. Last thing before we jump into football, we were talking a little bit about this before the show. Two things, actually. One, is there a food that you eat out of a can or a jar that if people knew, they may think differently of you? And secondly, were you a two-sport athlete in high school, and was there any consideration of playing two sports in college? We were talking about your teammate Brian Hudson competing in the track and field national championships. Was there a two-sport possibility for you? Because for us, the one sport wasn't even happening, let alone a second. Well, except for Vince, man. Of course, Vince.
I got hurt.
Yeah, I know, right? But you weren't playing baseball out there for Danny Mac, man. You weren't quite there yet. I mean, I believe
boys didn't want me. I could have threw sidearm out there, and it would have been sick.
It's not weird, I don't think. But the only food I eat out of a can is peaches.
Okay. Oh, see, we didn't even think about that one in the fruit department, Jacob.
Yeah,
we had a hot debate about this, Brock. I mean, it was going on for a while, from sardines to peanut butter.
What foods were you guys debating?
Yeah, so I eat applesauce out of the little cups, but I slurp them like a drink.
No, bro.
See, that's what I'm saying. Matt, what was yours? Because it was just as bad.
I said Jello, but
Jello and pudding. So the same thing.
I mean, that's a little better though. I can deal with that.
I'm not. I have zero pride, Brock. I'll eat sardines and other shit. I don't care.
and see, then I followed mine up with, when you go to a breakfast restaurant like a Cracker Barrel or an IHOP, and with the condiments and whatnot, you have those little containers of jelly, those little small ones. Yeah. I'll eat those sometimes.
See, Brock's gonna see for media availability now, and he's gonna be like, "Man, that's the guy that eats the fucking jelly out of the package. What a weirdo."
All right, second sport. What was your second sport outside of football? Because I would imagine that you played multiple sports.
Yeah, no, I played basketball, but I mean, man, I was really just a 3-point specialist. I was that white boy that came,
gym rat.
Yeah, gym rat. I
Hard
came
worker.
off the double
Sneakily
screens,
athletic.
the double screens to hit the 3 on the top of the key. You know.
Yes.
Yeah. No, no, I had 0 shot of playing basketball at the Division I level. No way.
I thought you would have been a baseball guy. You seem like just a perfect
pitcher,
third
man.
base
Like a
shortstop. Side.
What's weird is usually playing quarterback and pitcher are correlated, but I was not a good pitcher.
Wow.
When I played baseball, I was third base. I was not a pitcher.
Yep. See, that's what I would have guessed.
But I think it's because I picked up a football before I picked up a baseball.
It probably messed with your arm slot a little bit.
Yeah, typically it's the other way around. If you pick up baseball, you can, translate to football pretty easily. But no, because I was taught when I was younger, like Peyton Manning's form was like the form.
Oh yeah, straight over
So
top.
very over the top, where baseball is nothing like that. Or nowadays, everyone wants to be Patrick Mahomes, and it's just like,
Well, that's me, man.
it's absolutely terrible. It's terrible form though for these young kids. I'm just like, you gotta
if you're a shortstop.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Anyways, I'll get us back on track and talk about actual on-field football stuff. Speaking of your Brocktober name coming from the Virginia game, heading into that week, knowing that Malik Cunningham wasn't going to play because he had the concussion, what was your overall mental headspace heading into that game? And then after the first quarter of that game, once you got kind of just maybe a little bit of nervousness out of the way, and then you really started to click. How did your mentals, for lack of a better way of saying it, transition over the weekend into the game?
Yeah, it kind of didn't really feel real until like we were warming up or we were on our way there, and Malik, wasn't on the plane, just because, it just didn't feel real for a while, that whole week, because I've been preparing like I was going to play the whole season, because you just have to. And so the week necessarily didn't feel different, but once we touched down Virginia, that's when it really hit me. And honestly, it was just a lot of joy of like, I'm an older guy that, had 0 offers out of high school, went JUCO, got a scholarship to an FCS, hated it, went back to JUCO, and found myself here as the only Power 5 offer was Louisville. It was just a lot of joy of like understanding and realizing like all the patience and hard work like was worth it. Being able to play, for me, what has filled up my cup so much was when I got to play against Clemson in the second half. Because I got to play in front of 80,000 people and the best competition in America. And that's all you can ask for as a competitor is like, I want to be on the biggest stage against the best competition. Even though we lost that game, like I had 175 yards and a half and a touchdown in the last play. And it was just like, to me, that's when I was like, okay, like who I think I am, I actually am. Like I can compete with the best of the best. Like I do deserve to be on this field with these elite athletes. It was amazing. But to get back to your question of, so my mental, the first quarter, man, was just like, shoot, I knew I had one game. So this was an audition. And there's this perfectionism in me. It's like, if you remember the first series, it's like 3rd and 3. We run these crossers. They cover it up. I go to run for the first down. There's like 4 dudes right there. I slide thinking I got the first down. They marked me half a yard short, 4th and inches. I get ringed up by Sat. What the hell are you doing? Do you think we slide in this program?
That's old Coach Pont's coming out in him right there.
Yeah, right.
There's 4 dudes right there. He's like, you run them over.
You should have said, what would you have done, Sat?
And so I was already like, well, that's one series gone. Like, I was just kind of really like nitpicking myself from that point on of like, once I made that split, I was like, I almost like didn't trust myself for the next like 2 or 3 series because I was like, oh, was that the wrong decision? Should I have, you know, hospitalized myself for one more yard? And so there's a little bit of that going on. And then, it got pretty bad in the first quarter. So I was like, you know what? You can't do much worse than this, man. Let's turn this thing around. And the perfect moment came where everyone in the stands and on the field believed that Jawar had the ball. And, once I took that rush down to the crib, that's when really everything opened up for me, confidence wise. And it doesn't matter how much you do a play over and over again in practice until you feel yourself executing in a game. It's getting into a rhythm is not easy. So I definitely encourage offensive coordinators out there, like, get some quick game going on early for these QBs because it's important.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, Brock. In like the Clemson game, coming out of the bullpen like that, is there quick game, something specific that you might want to hit trying to get in rhythm? Or are you like, all right, let's go ahead, let's go for it. If you want to take a shot, we can take a shot right here.
Yeah, no, I'm the type that I would love like a running back screen first play or, a quick hitter, quick game wise, whether it's slants or outs or hitches. Like, I think it's important just to see, it's kind of like making that first basket, just seeing it go down the net. It's just like seeing that ball go into their hands and, whether it's 5 yards or a first down or whatever it is, that naturally just kind of gets me specifically in a rhythm of like, all right, let's do this thing. We're in it.
You just said Jacob's buzzword in slants. He loves slants.
Look, man, I'm telling you, you got a fast wide receiver who's a little bit strong. It's unstoppable. I'm telling you, man.
Chris Bell.
My man. Yeah. Slant king, right? I mean, he looks like a guy who could run a good slant.
Right.
I'm here for that.
He's built like damn Anquan Bolden.
So Sat and them head up to Cincinnati, right? You guys do the bowl game. Phenomenal job there and everything. And Jeff gets announced as the new head coach. Obviously, new offense, new everything coming in, new strength staff. What has that been like, adjusting to the new coaches, adjusting to new schedules, I'm sure, new practice schedules, everything, really?
It's been really great. Like, I honestly wanted a shift in direction of this program after so seeing a new staff come in was in favor of where my head and heart was at, to be honest. And it's so cool having a family that has such a pride about their hometown and obviously coaching and playing here. Like, just this program's in such good hands. Like, I wish my eligibility was just starting, honestly.
Oh, you and me both.
Yeah. So it's like, wow, like this is what Louisville's been waiting for. And I just get, a little smidge of it, but no, I'm really grateful for it. Their offense is, so at first it was very overwhelming, a little bit of like, the simplicity of the last offense compared to the complexity of this offense. But man, it's been so awesome. And just being able to attack this new offense has been such a blessing. And I really feel like any of us that has aspirations to play at the next level, like such a great preparation for that terminology, for that level of really responsibilities all of us have. And, we do a lot of RPOs. And so with RPOs comes just a level of decision-making at the quarterback level that takes a greater understanding than I've had to have before.
Yeah. And you guys have, former Louisville legend Brian Brohm as your quarterback coach, who's obviously spent some time in the NFL and, bounced around there. And was with Jeff at Purdue and stuff. So what's it like, being coached by a guy like that who's been through this program at your position, knows where you're at, has played at the highest level, knows the RPO game like that. I'm sure it's very insightful, even if you don't have plans on playing in the NFL, if you wanted to coach or something like that one day, I'm sure he's somebody's brain that you would love to just pick.
Yeah. No, what I love about the Brahms is they're all about ball, and they are extremely intelligent about the game of football. And so, and then also just having the level of respect that, I've never had a quarterback coach that played in the NFL. At my FCS, I had a quarterback coach that was looking up stuff on YouTube before meetings.
Oh, hell no.
Oh,
no.
Bro, I have a shot at coaching in college football if that's the case, man. I'm excited.
And he was a receiver coach for like 6 years before that, and really just their recruiting guy that like doesn't like his family and just is on the road all the time. So,
oh my God.
Going from that to obviously Louisville legend Brian Brohm, like just I really soak up a lot of what he has to say. There's obviously a high level of respect for him from all of us in the QB room, and he's the little Jeff's gonna get into you now, and Brian's gonna be there to be like, hey, he's a little more calm. Like, hey, bro, like, yeah, what were you thinking here? So yeah, Brian's really cool guy. So he's the kind of guy you would want to drink beers with and go golfing.
And you had mentioned how, like, when the Brahms first came in and tried to install the offense, how with the pro system, the pro terminology, that at first your eyes are kind of wide and you're looking at this like, what the hell am I doing? But you fast forward to the spring game, and Jack Plummer is obviously only going to play like a couple series and then he's done. So you get an extended run of the spring game. It seemed like you had a pretty firm grasp on everything you had learned on the spring. You looked seemingly pretty comfortable. Is that how you felt in the spring game?
Matt, that was sweet. That was really
Appreciate
sweet.
that.
Yeah, man.
No,
that was nice.
Definitely, I definitely felt comfortable. I mean, shoot, my dad and I, he's helped me a lot of put the whole offense into an Excel spreadsheet, and organized it by formation, and really just went to studying. And so I just really I really wanted to show the staff and myself that I can pick up things quickly and be a viable asset for this team in the fall. And so, yeah, hopefully I showed that. So I appreciate that. And I mean, it took a while, but at the same time, like, this is why I'm here. I'm already graduated. I'm all about ball. So, I was actually looking at plays before this call. So it's just, you got to constantly have your head in the playbook so you know what the heck you're doing out there.
You'll really appreciate Vince, because Vince and I will just be like having a beer, and I'll check my phone to see my wife texting me. I look over and this man's drawing football plays.
I'll be drawing up like white 14.
That's what he does for fun. His drawing up football plays.
It's gotta be an obsession, and if it's not, like, what am I doing?
That's honestly
listen to this trick play right here.
That's the best way to learn that offense, though, because I mean, him and Petrino have a very similar style of offense, and that's what they always told us whenever we were underclassmen. It was like, group everything into families, and it sounds like that's kind of what you're doing with the Excel spreadsheets. So that's pretty cool to see all that stuff still being passed down and utilized in the old Petrino understudy guys.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some camp right now. I got a 5-year-old daughter. We're talking about camp all the time. What kind of camp can she go to? And I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there that are interested in getting their sons or daughters out on the football field to learn the game from a D1 Power 5 quarterback. So tell us a little bit about the Cards Youth Football Camp. I know you did this last year. This year it's coming up on Saturday, June 17th at the King Louis Sports Complex, back behind the Blind Squirrel. For all of my East Enders, they know about the Blind Squirrel. The parents of the kids going to the camp know about the Blind Squirrel, but that's where you can find Brock. So Brock, tell me a little bit about the camp, what everybody can expect, how they can sign up, all that good stuff.
So it's from 8:30 a.m. till noon. And there's going to be 25, including myself, Cards football players. What's awesome about this year is there's going to be even more like big name guys there, like Ashton Gelati, Michael Gonzalez, Brian Hudson, Jawar will be back. We're going to get Jabari Thrash out there. We're going to get whole bunch of dudes out there. I'm so grateful for my teammates for being so willing to help out. Man, I'm excited because last year was obviously the first year, and there was so much to learn from it. It went really well, but there was just so much that I didn't know being the first time. So I feel a lot more comfortable going into this year. And what to expect is just basic, entry level football skills and drills where anyone and everyone needs to learn the basics. You're going to have a very good ratio of coaches to participants. Last year we had a 4-to-1 ratio. This year we're expecting about the same, and very minimal lines. So awesome. As a person that wants to get their money's worth out of a camp, like you're going to get a lot of reps. And you're going to get a lot of interaction with our coaches. And so I think that's huge. And then, the other thing that I think we make an emphasis on is when the kids are getting a water break, I bring up one of my teammates and, for 3 to 5 minutes, they just speak on either a part of their story or a trait that's helped them get to the Division I level. And so we're trying to really speak into these kids as much as we can during the camp. We're going to have 3 or 4 separate water breaks where we do this and just really share some inspirational, motivational things of how these kids can walk away from this camp a better version of themselves and hopefully inspired to, if their dream is football, to pursue that. But if it's something else, just look within themselves and believe in themselves. And that's really our goal. And our goal is to impact this community in a positive way and use our influence while we got it because it's short-lived. So we all want to, utilize this platform and hopefully give out a very entertaining camp.
So my question for you is, what's the first thing, I assume you're with the quarterbacks or whatever group of a station of quarterbacks that you have there. What's the first thing you would teach these kids being a basic for them? Besides trying to how you hold a football. I don't know. That's probably the first thing you do mention to them.
I always talk about feet and eyes create the throw. So I think too often people think that throwing the ball has to do with your arm, which it does, but your feet and your eyes is what creates accuracy. If your feet and your eyes are off, it doesn't matter what your your arm follows. So really just, digging into them of, hey, don't try to throw this ball all arm. Really create ground force energy with your feet and then make sure your eyes are in the correct spot because, our brain is such a beautiful computer and it needs to be able to calculate, where it's going. And so your eyes are really, really important too. Those are the two things I would tell them first. But honestly, I'm going to be emceeing the camp, so I won't be helping out too much with drills. That's why I got my teammates with me.
MC Brock.
Yeah, he brought.
I'm gonna be on the mic, man, getting after it.
He's gonna teach everybody how to Brock around the clock, man. That's what he's gonna do.
Oh my
Brock and roll up there. That's what it's all about, man. They're gonna leave experts in Brock and roll.
See what you do, Brock. You see what you do. I'm so happy you won that Virginia game and you balled out, but this is what you've created.
Oh man.
Brocktober.com is where you can register for the camp. Again, Saturday, June 17th, 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it looks like you got a little Chick-fil-A breakfast happening out there, man. Chick-fil-A minis. I might come out there just for that.
Right? Yeah. So we got Chick-fil-A for everyone before we start the camp, and then Blaze Pizza. They're not delivering, but they're giving out vouchers.
Okay.
For free pizza for after the camp. Yeah, man. Our sponsors, shout out to our sponsors. They've really made this thing run so smoothly this year.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, for the hands-on teaching and tutelage that they're going to get, and just the ability for these kids to be around Division I college football players. I know, Matt, Vince, and I all have probably memories as kids being around players for U of L and what that did for us. And so you're right, man. It's all about that next generation of fans. So check out the website. You can enroll or get signed up for the camp there. Is there a cutoff for signups, or are you guys doing walk-ups or anything like that?
Yeah, we're doing walk-ups, man.
Okay, awesome. Well, there you go. No excuses. Get out there Saturday, June 17th. Cards Youth Football Camp hosted by Brock Domann and Cards Football Players. And you heard the man. A lot of teammates going to be out there. I might come out there, man. I might see if I can. I don't know football. So, I mean, I know I can talk football, but I didn't play football. So, I mean, you talk about the fundamentals, man. We might start from the beginning. And who knows? I could be, calling plays for FCS program by the end of the night. After, you know what I mean? You just never know, man. It's that kind of camp with Brock Domann. Brock, thanks so much for taking time out of your night to join us. And again, make sure you all go up and sign up your kids for the camp. And Brock, we'll catch up with you soon, brother.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me on.
We will transition here to the final part of the show. A big thank you to Brock Domann for joining us to talk about the camp. And guys, I mean, $55 for a camp where you're getting to interact with 19 to 20 Louisville football players, including like some guys that could be all ACC, guys like Brian Hudson who are national champions. I bet he eats something really
Jamari
cool.
Thrash.
Brian Hudson eats something cool out of a can. No doubt he does. I don't know what
He's
it
an
is.
Offensive lineman. That's like a requirement.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. But
Sure
fullback,
like Scott County or something like that.
He's from Maysville, Kentucky.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. But let's dive into a new segment on the show. But tonight we introduce to you Matt's 5, where we will give you a breakdown of whether it be players, things you need to know, whatever it is. Matt will give you his list of 5. And tonight we are going to look at players for Louisville football that are flying under the radar. And this is really interesting considering the show we've had so far, right? Where we've talked about Jack Plummer being very much under the radar, and Louisville probably going to take a hit from that when it comes to preseason polls. We've talked about all these guys that have come in from from some of the big schools and they didn't play a lot, like a Marcus Washington at Georgia, or you bring in some of the guys like a Storm Duck that are coming in back to the ACC to really supplant themselves as a, top corner in the country, all the way to Ashton Gelati. You got to prove that he is a Yasir Abdullah, Yahya Diaby type. So Matt, give us from 5 to 1. It doesn't have to be in order, but just of the like.
Make it in order.
Best.
I want it in order.
Yeah,
Don't listen
order.
to Jacob.
Give us your 5 players for Louisville football who are flying under the radar as we head into 2023.
This is a little bit difficult because there's a lot of potential star power on this team. So it was kind of a little bit difficult to find some guys that were truly under the radar, but this is my list to end up going with. I found 2 on the offense, 3 on the defense. I'm going to start with the offense first, obviously with the shift to a system that's, very pass heavy. The running game is going to be, I don't want to say on the back burner, but it's not going to be as huge of an emphasis as it was in years past under Satterfield, who loved to run the hell out of the ball. And of course, that being said, it's easy to say like, oh yeah, Jar Jordan's probably going to be like under the radar. He's still going to be the starter. And just looking at how Purdue had ran the ball, I mean, Devin Mockabee last year as a walk-on had 900 yards, so it's not too far under the radar. So my first under the radar pick is Maurice Turner. Even though Louisville is not going to run the ball as much, he's still going to be someone to really look out for, because if any of you guys made it out to the open spring practices, checked that out, even at the spring game, there were times where not only did Maurice Turner look really good, there were times where he looked better than Jahar Jordan. And that's not to say that Jahar Jordan looked bad during spring, because he looked good the entire spring. But whenever you've got a skill set like Maurice Turner, and this is someone who went stride for stride with Tyreek Hill in a foot race and won. So when you've got a skill set like him, there's only a matter of time before like it comes through, and the Reds just won on a walk-off home run. Sorry to interrupt there, but go Reds. But anyways, that out. Go Reds. Anyways, but yeah, even though they're not going to run the ball as much, I think Maurice Turner is going to be a little underappreciated. It is underappreciated right now just because of that fact. And I use that to transition into the fact that because they pass the ball so often, there's a couple guys that are getting a lot of love right now, and deservedly so. Like, the Jamari Thrashes, the Kevin Coleman, because he had a really good standout spring. But I think someone who is flying under the radar amongst the receiving core is Amari Huggins-Bruce. And that is because that's mainly a byproduct of the fact that he wasn't really utilized that much under Satterfield. I mean, it was very obvious multiple times that he has a load of potential. And if he is utilized the right way, whether that be in the slot, out wide, wherever lined up on the football field, he can be a deadly weapon. And he just wasn't utilized that much. And he's got a wide receiver one potential. Granted, it's going to be hard to really be a wide receiver one when you've got a guy like Jamari Thrash, who's probably going to be 1,000-yard receiver this year. But I think a player who has one of the better chances to be quote unquote wide receiver 2 right behind Thrash is Huggins-Bruce, just because he's got familiarity with being here in Louisville. He's going to be in a system where he's able to thrive more. So I think that's someone that, quite frankly, not a lot of people are talking a lot about more.
Yeah, anyways, he's a dude that Grant Mulligan and I will down a hill about that set, and then we're not utilizing him correctly. Like we will literally, you'll be hard pressed to find two people that will down that hill before us.
Absolutely. And so anyways, those are my two guys on the offensive side of the ball. Now I'm going to transition to defense for my three guys on that side of the ball. They're flying under the radar. I'm going to start on the defensive line with none other than Jared Dawson, because he obviously, when you look at his overall stat line, it's not exactly something that jumps off the page. He wasn't the most impactful from a stat line perspective, but if you actually just watch the games, he is shoving offensive linemen around. He's dictating leverage at the point of attack, and even in the spring when he got a fair amount of run over, just rotating in and out, whether it be with the ones, the twos, at nose, at D tackle, he just looked incredible. Well, I'm not going to say he was the best, but he is someone that I think when you talk about the overall defensive line rotation, especially in the middle of the line, Jared Dawson is going to be firmly in the thick of things just because of how much of a force in the middle he is. And I transitioned from the defensive line to the guys right behind them in the linebacking core. I know the linebacking core is not going to be really, really great, or at least we think as of right now, it's not going to be really great because of the lack of depth and relative inexperience at inside the linebacker. But I think someone who's flying under the radar in that group is Ben Perry. And I say that partially because with the amount of relative, like with how thin inside backer is, that might lead to Ben Perry playing a little bit more inside than we probably anticipated, because obviously he's going to be the starter at this star position, which is basically a hybrid linebacker safety. But given the linebacker situation right now, I mean, you can see situations where you see a Ben Perry or a Gilbert Frierson or an Antonio Watts, who's been taking reps at star, kind of slide in over at inside backer from time to time. And even when you have lineups like that, that just adds more versatility because you've got a linebacker who can essentially act as another defensive back on the field. But when you look at that group as a whole, Ben Perry's got the most talent. He's got the most versatility. In the spring, he was just flying around the ball. He was making plays in the box. He was making plays in coverage. And I really think when you're ranking the guys who are primed to break out and not just guys who are flying under the radar, Ben Perry's got to be top 3, if not the guy to really watch out for when it comes to guys having a breakout year. And finally, I'm going to wrap up this segment with a guy in the secondary. And my last guy flying under the radar is Quincy Riley.
Ooh,
now,
like that one, Matt.
Now, he's going to be really flying under the radar because when you look at that area of the field as a whole, both cornerback and safety, it's kind of crowded right now, crowded with both bodies and talent, because you've got Jarvis Brownlee, who, even though he was up and down last season, he's had a good spring and he was still productive from a statistical standpoint. You've got guys like Marquise Groves-Gillibrew coming in and Marcus Washington. You've got Storm Duck, who's already an all-ACC corner coming in. He's probably going to be him and Jarvis that are going to be probably the most. If I had to guess right now who are going to be the starting cornerback duo, it's probably going to be Jarvis and Storm. And then you look at the back end, and you've got guys like MJ Griffin, Josh Minkins, Devin Neal. I say all that to say the secondary is crowded. But then who was it that led Louisville in interceptions last year? Quincy Riley had 3 of them. Several other guys on the roster had 2 of them. And you can make a case that Quincy was probably one of the better man-to-man cover corners not named Keitrell Clark. He's just got buried in the defensive back rotation, and then that just happens. But, it's a good problem to have when you have that much talent that you kind of get buried. But this is someone who didn't get the reps that he probably should have gotten last year, because it's very clear that he has talent. And when Jarvis was kind of having his struggles, like when his peaks and valleys, when he was at his peaks, it was probably times where maybe Quincy Riley gets in for a series or 2. And I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for him to see an increase in PT this year with how crowded the secondary is as a whole. But Quincy Riley has potential, absolutely.
All right. Well, that'll wrap up Matt's 5. Good job, man. You set the bar really low for yourself. So next time you can come out and do a great job. I'm kidding. That was great, man.
I tried.
That's really, really good lowercase J right there. And there's a lot of guys. We could probably do 30 guys that are flying under the radar. And when you have a team that's flying under the radar, deservedly so. It's been a rough couple of years for Louisville in terms of climbing the mountaintop in the ACC, but it's understandable. So this season, very exciting. Hopefully you got your season tickets. If not, you can go find those right now. And get out there just 7 times this year at home, 6 times, something like that. I forget exactly. 7 at home this year. So 7 opportunities.
And IU. And I mean, if you want to make some away games, this is the year.
This
Tech
is definitely
and
the year
IU.
to do it. Yeah. My wife works for a company that just bought another company in North Carolina. So that Duke, was Duke at home this year? I don't have the schedule in front of me.
Duke is at home, yeah.
Okay, well then maybe next year I'll go to Duke. So much for that.
I'm trembling in my boots, Matt.
Still be
Trembling.
Me and all 5 of those Duke football fans, right? You know how that goes.
Right.
Matt loves these teams like Duke and Boston. Matt's all about the bottom feeders of the ACC.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear a I hate Christian Laettner shirt to that. I just hate Duke, man. I just hate Duke. I hate them.
You and Kentucky fans right now.
Everybody does, dude. If Louisville Kentucky fans can get along with anything, it's got to be a hatred towards Duke. I mean, nobody likes them. Nobody except Duke fans.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with you there, but we might argue about that next time here on From the Pink Seats podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. Big thank you to Brock Domann for jumping on with us. Thank you to Matt for Matt's 5. Thank you for Vince for showing up and providing the football expertise and the football street cred, if you will, on this show, because we know we need that when I'm asking Brock out here about showing up at his camp for kids. Sad sack of football am I. That's what a sad sack of football.
We can get you out there. I'll run you through a crash course of weights, hills.
I want to.
This is going to have us do Oklahoma drills.
Yeah, right. Just
pretty much. I wanted to ask him that, but we didn't get around to that.
Yeah, we'll see if they're going to run. They will not be running Oklahoma drills at this camp. Let me make sure I clarify that, because Brock would not appreciate that.
Yeah, no.
So check out brockdomann.com to register for the Cards Youth Football Camp and support Brock and the football players who will be out there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Continue to support us as a show here on From the Pink Seats podcast at the State of Louisville on YouTube, at Pink Seats Pod on Twitter, at Matt_McGavick, at U of L Report, at Vincent Lococo, at Jacob Lane 08. Of course, check out stateoflouisville.com in the U of L report of Sports Illustrated to stay up to date on all things Louisville. And we will catch you next week. We'll be back for an episode of Where Are They Now? Episode, what are we on? Episode 6 next week. We will be joined by D'Angelo Brown, former Louisville football defensive lineman. We keep it moving. We got a lot of defensive linemen this season.
Former teammate. That'll be fun, man.
Yeah, I'm
was
really excited about that.
He was the last of like the Charlie guys hanging around with everything. So like him and Keith Kelsey, the leadership they brought to that team, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, really excited about that. So make sure you guys subscribe, and we will catch you next time here on From the Pink Seats podcast. Until then, go Cards.